Live.
Hi, Donna.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We're here for the Board of Adjustment meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. We made it to the next year. If we could do a roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Friedman,
Present.
Vice Chair Winston,
I'm trying to get the background that we normally use, and I
Miss
probably have a
Reynolds?
new version of Zoom, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Miss Reynolds.
Somebody help me get my background again. I'm not sure what's happened here. I used to be able to click on something and get my background.
Is the Zoom app open, Donna?
Yeah, it doesn't open up the same way, folks.
Board Member Reynolds is present, just having some audio issues.
Okay. Let's continue. Can we continue with the roll call?
Yeah. Melissa, do you want to continue with the roll call?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
No, you're on mute. Are you? I can't.
On
Let me
mute.
see.
No,
Oh.
we can hear you.
now.
Okay. Okay, Miss Deering,
Present.
Mr.
Melissa, you cut out again.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr.
If you're calling Mr. Moz, Board Member Moz is present.
We are losing your audio, Melissa. I don't know why you're.
I'm present. There is a-
Melissa,
Yes,
we're having a difficult time with your audio. You may want to log out and log back in. That's worked in the past. And then Board Member Donna Reynolds, it looks like you've been speaking, but we can't hear you. So I'm not sure what's going on with your audio either. But you do have a background up, which is good.
Oh, I can go ahead and do the roll call. Let's just start the roll call over. Chair, did you want to start the roll call over just for clarity?
Sure, absolutely. Let's begin again.
Okay. Chair Friedman,
Present.
Vice Chair Winston,
Present.
Board Member Reynolds, Board Member Reynolds, you have to unmute yourself. Okay, we'll come back to you, Board Member Reynolds. Board Member Alexander,
Present.
Board Member Painter,
Present.
Board Member Moss,
Present.
Board Member Deering.
Present.
Chair, we have a full board and a quorum.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to welcome a new board member, Dan Painter. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening to you all. Want me to do a presentation or introduce myself?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I don't know how much you want, but I'm a retired,
Just a brief one.
very brief. Retired from 35 years in the planning field. Moved here from Virginia a few years ago. Have lived in Colorado for 30 years prior to that. So kind of like coming back home a little bit. I'm just glad to be out west and love Santa Fe. So here I am.
That's great. Nice to have you aboard.
Thank you.
So if we could,
And Chair, sorry to interrupt, we have another brand new board member, Board Member Grant Alexander, if you wanted to.
Sure,
my apologies. I didn't see that.
no worries.
Grant. So sorry. Welcome aboard
It's
also.
okay. Thank you.
Could you give us a brief background of yourself as well?
Sure. So I work as an architect in Santa Fe and a realtor. I did work as a planner for a number of years in Boston, doing traffic engineering and transportation planning as well. And yeah, excited to be part of this. I also live in Soy Lomas, as apparently half the people here do. And yeah, excited to help.
Excellent. That's great. Well, welcome aboard also. Could we do a Pledge of Allegiance, please? You want to lead us, Noah?
You want me to lead you? I don't actually think I can lead you. I think it has to be another.
All
board.
right, okay, I'll start us off. I pledge allegiance
allegiance
to the flag
the
of
flag
the United States
of
of
the United States
America
of America and
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. Thank you. Thanks for the picture, Noah.
You're welcome, Chair.
Appreciate it. Can we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
Member Moss, so moved.
Okay, and then do we have a second?
Rachel Winston, second.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call vote to approve the motion, please? Noah, do you want to do it?
Yeah, I do see Melissa's on here. I'm not sure if she's having trouble with her audio, but I will give it my best shot.
Okay.
Vice Chair Winston,
She's on mute.
Trying to unmute, sorry. Yes.
Board Member Reynolds,
Yes.
Board Member Alexander,
Yes.
Board Member Painter,
Yes.
Board Member Moss,
Yes.
Board Member Deering,
Yes.
and Chair Friedman.
Yes. Thank you. Good job.
Motion passes.
All right. I have a question. Since Melissa is not, can't hear us, are we recording this so that we have minutes?
Chair, board members, yes, we are recording this, and I do think Sally is probably keeping very good notes, as she always does, just in the event. She's saying she's not taking notes tonight. That's a first. But just in case, we are recording this, and we will get minutes for the board, and we will need Melissa to be able to swear people in if there's public testimony, and also for the applicants. So I'm hopeful that Melissa's logged on here and is fixing the audio issue.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that, Noah. Next on our agenda, we have, since it's the beginning of the year, election of officers. The current officer slate is myself as chair and Rachel Winston as vice chair. We don't have a secretary, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Chair, that's correct. And we had kind of, since this is our first virtual elections, we had proposed to do it in a way that would try to be efficient. And so the way that we would try to do this is that you as the chair would open it up to nominations from the floor, or Sally wants to chime in on how we're going to do this. Okay,
Noah, you blacked out there. Couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
May I speak to it for a second, Chair?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Gary? I think
No.
everyone can hear me except you now, I think.
Yeah, I lost Noah there.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. We did review Robert's Rules of Order on this topic, since I know this group hasn't done elections in a long time, and we've certainly never done any on Zoom. So we were trying to figure out a good, effective way to do this. And my recommendation is that we would like to propose a procedure. Noah's got one to propose, and then I suggest a motion from somebody to kind of adopt the proposed procedure for holding the election. And then we can actually move to the election itself. And so that was just sort of what I wanted to chime in, that this is our recommendation, but I do recommend that somebody actually move to adopt this process if you agree that it's a good way to go. So Noah, did you want to go ahead and explain the kind of proposed approach or?
Yes, can you guys hear me now or am I blacking out still? Okay, thank you. So Chair and board members, the process that we're proposing is that the chair opens this up for to the floor for nominations. At which point any board member can nominate themselves or another board member for either, first we would want to do the chair, then we would want to do a vice chair, and then we would want to do a secretary. Once we have done those three things, and then we would go ahead and poll for each of it, and we would use the poll function, which I'm able to do. I've created a poll. I'm hopeful that it works. However, in the event that it doesn't work, we can text your votes to Eli, who's has volunteered to give his number to the board members here so that you can go ahead and text him whoever you'd like to vote for each of the positions of chair, vice chair, and the secretary. In the event that the poll fails for some reason, that we would go ahead and do the texting mechanism. And if the texting fails for some reason, then we'd go to the old-fashioned way, which is nomination, exception of nomination, then a vote, roll call vote. That would be how we would conduct these elections. If that is admissible to the chair and to the board members, then that would be my suggestion on our path forward for tonight's meeting.
So Noah, I apologize. I didn't hear the first part. What was the first part before the text?
The first part would be polling. After the nominations have been accepted, then I would open a poll for each of the board members and it'll pop up on your screen once I activate the poll.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, I'm fine with that procedure. How does everyone else feel?
I have a question for Noah. Rachel Winston. What is the role of the secretary?
Thank you, Vice Chair Winston and board members. It's a great question. So the secretary would essentially be the third in command in case there was the chair couldn't make a meeting, the vice chair couldn't make a meeting, but really the main duty of the secretary is the minutes and to review the minutes and the findings before each meeting and propose any changes to the stenographer or to staff. So that position really is key for us in terms of the minutes and then the findings.
So they don't prepare the minutes, but they would review the minutes.
The expectation is they would review the minutes in detail, as we would hope that every board member is doing, but especially the secretary.
They do the minutes extra hard.
Yes, they take that magnifying glass and amplify it.
Noah, would you be having the minutes signed by just the secretary or by the president and the secretary?
I think the minutes are still signed the way they've been signed in the past. I don't think that changes at all.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks for that clarification. Any other thoughts?
When it's open to the floor, oh, I'm sorry, Colleen. One quick question, Colleen. This is Rachel again. When it's open to the floor, do we nominate a slate or do we do it by position? In other words, we present all our nominations or?
The recommendation in Robert's rules for a group of this size would actually be to nominate one office at a time and then vote on it. And then you know who's out of the running when we go to nominate for vice chair. So if we start with chair, then you know who's we've already elected a chair. So that would be one way to do it. Or you could nominate a slate. I think we're asking for you all to decide how you want to do it and move to do it that way. But to me, that made sense to maybe nominate just chair, vote on chair, and then nominate vice chair, vote on vice chair.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's how we've done it in the past.
And member Deering has been patiently waiting.
I just wanted to go ahead and move that Member Deering, I would like to go ahead and move that we follow the procedures as stated by Noah Burke.
Member Moss, second.
Melissa, are you able to do a roll call vote for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm so sorry. Okay, Vice Chair Winston.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Deering?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
And Chair Friedman.
Yes,
The motion has been approved.
great. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the first position is chair. Does anyone want to be chair?
Chair, I think you have to open it up to.
Opening the
okay.
floor for
I open it up to
nomination.
nominations.
I would like to, Member Deering, I would like to nominate Rachel Winston as chair.
And the procedure does allow for seconds. They're not required, but if anybody wanted to second or you want to add any additional verbiage to your nomination, that is permitted.
I will second the nomination.
I have a
Who
nomination.
seconded that?
Oh, Gary Friedman seconded.
Thank you.
And Rachel Winston, I have a nomination. I would like to nominate Gary Friedman as chair.
I will second that. Member Moss.
Rachel, do you prefer not to do it?
Number 2 is good. I'm happy with the number 2 position.
Okay, well, I'm not going, whatever the vote of the board wants, but I will do it if people elect. I will not decline.
So Chair and Vice Chair, I think the way that this kind of works is a nomination is presented and then it's seconded and then the person can accept or deny the nomination. I think that's kind of the way that that works. So if you don't want to accept the nomination, then you don't. And then that's okay. And then you would go ahead and work for a second nomination of the chair for each of the positions.
Right. That's what I was doing, but I'll do it more clearly. I will not want to do that to Rachel, so I will accept her nomination.
And the election does need to be by a majority of members. So we will need 4 to elect a chair.
Okay, so we've got a chair, and is there or a nomination for a chair that's been accepted? So now we would have. Is there any other nominations for a chair?
So Rachel, are you declining?
I am declining. Thank you.
Okay.
That's what I figured.
Implied.
Just wanted it clear for the record.
If Rachel wanted to do it, I would have gladly allowed her to. Not my choice though, but.
Okay. So great. So Chair, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this poll feature, and it may actually have 3 questions, and we can just re-poll for each of the ones. So I think this one's pretty cut and dry. I think everybody is going to probably vote the same way, but I'm going to do this anyways and see if it works. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the polling feature, which is now in progress. You should see something pop up on your screen. It'll have the board members' names, and you can go ahead and vote for your chair, which is question number 1.
And if you can't see it, you may need to select the polls option at the bottom of your screen.
I can see it, but it's asking to vote on all 3 positions and it won't submit.
Yeah, don't submit.
So we can do this. We can do this 2 ways. So we have. I think the way that we could probably do this is we can go ahead and since we have opened up to the floor, we can go ahead and do a vice chair. We can do the vice chair now, a nomination for vice chair, and either that's accepted or it's not, and seconded or it's not. And then we can do for secretary. So we can go through all 3 of these, and then we can vote all 3 together.
Let's do that.
Okay, so I'm going to end the polling now so that it does take up your screen. And then I'm going to relaunch the polling when everybody's ready. So let's go ahead, Chair, if you wanted to do the vice chair, open up to the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I open up the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I would like to.
Member Moss, I would like to nominate Rachel Winston for vice chair.
Member Deering, second.
Okay, thank you very much. Rachel, would you accept that nomination?
Rachel, you have to.
You're muted. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Vice Chair Winston, you have to.
I accept that nomination.
Thank you. And do we have a nomination for secretary? I open up the floor for nominations for secretary. It doesn't have to be, it can be either sex, folks.
I nominate Rachel Winston. I nominate Board Member Colleen Deering, Secretary.
I will second that nomination. Board Member Gary Friedman.
So does Board Member Deering accept the nomination?
I would.
Okay, great. Are there any other nominations? Nope. Okay, so now we're going to do the relaunch the poll. Okay, so now everybody, all three of those.
Do we need to vote if we only have one person running for each board position?
Yeah, voting's required for elections, even if you just have one. So I'm going to go ahead and relaunch this. So now just take a look at your screen and go ahead.
Rachel, I like your cup.
Done.
Okay. I'm going and I'm going to share the results with everybody. So you should see the results. The new chair for the next 2 years is going to be, and I believe it's 2-year terms for a chair, is Chair Gary Friedman. The vice chair for the Board of Adjustment is going to be Rachel Winston.
Yay!
And the secretary for Board of Adjustment is going to be Colleen Deering.
Wonderful.
So
Welcome to your secretarial position, Colleen.
Thank you all for guinea pigging our Zoom anonymous voting technology.
Colleen, one thing I will promise you is Rachel and I will not conspire to be absent on the same night.
Well, just make sure you get a recording of the meeting afterwards so that you can have a good laugh.
Okay.
I don't think you guys
Very
can
good.
travel in the same car or be in the same building or anything together anymore. I think we need a, designated survivor.
All right. Well, this is, we have people waiting, so I want to move forward with our hearing this evening. And if we first could have an approval of the minutes and findings of fact and conclusions of law. There aren't any with respect to the December 1st meeting, but we do have minutes from the December 1st meeting, December 1, 2020. So could I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
Rachel Winston, I move to approve the minutes from December 1st, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Member Deering, I second.
Thank you. And could we do a roll call, please? Melissa?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Okay, perfect. Vice Chair Winston.
Approve.
Member Reynolds.
Approve.
Member Deering.
Approved.
Member Moss.
Approved.
Member Alexander.
Approved.
Member Painter.
I'll say approve, but since I wasn't there, I should abstain, I guess, but
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
I
And
think actually that Board Member Alexander and Board Member Painter, the correct thing to do is to not vote on this motion.
Unless you viewed the YouTube video in preparation for this meeting, which is an
I
option.
read the notes.
and Chair Friedman.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. Any old business?
No old business, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to new business. Our first case is case number 2020-2894 regarding 3 Placita Raffacea. It's a step back variance. And could we have a staff report on that, please?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Madam Secretary, and board members. Case 2020-2894 is for property located at number 3, Placita Raffaella, in regards to a requested setback variance, Gayla Bechtel, architect, agent for Holmes Family Trust, owner, requests approval of the variance to Santa Fe City Code Table 14-7.2-1 to enlarge an existing second-story structure that is non-conforming in regards to minimum rear yard setbacks. The property is zoned RC8, residential compound, 8 dwelling units per acre, is approximately 0.073 acre in size, and is within the downtown and east side historic districts. Specifically, the applicant is seeking to increase the floor area of an existing second-story structure from 242 square feet to 340 square feet, as well as provide outside decking and associated railings. Table 14-7.2-1 establishes a minimum side yard of 5 feet in the RC8 district and a minimum rear yard of 15 feet. The existing structure is 3 feet from the rear property line at its widest point, while a portion of the structure is placed directly adjacent to the rear property line with no setback. In the way of additional background, the 1,019 square feet residence was constructed originally in 1932, which is prior to the city's current setbacks, while the 242 square foot second story structure was added during the 1970s. As board members are aware, the variance process is intended to balance reasonable use of the applicant's property against compliance with the letter and intent of adopted regulations. The proposal must be consistent with at least one of the circumstances listed in criteria 1A through 1D and must be consistent with all of criteria 2 through 5. Staff find that the applicant has not provided sufficient rationale and adherence to approval of criteria, and staff recommend denial of the requested variance. And this concludes staff's overview of the request, and staff will remain available, of course, to answer questions you may have.
Thank you very much. So who is here on behalf of the applicant this evening?
I am Chair Friedman, Gayla Bechtel.
So is anyone else going to be speaking on behalf of the applicant this evening?
I think my clients are on the line, but I do not believe they wish to speak.
No, we just need to swear in everyone who is going to be speaking tonight on behalf of the applicant. So why don't you start off, if you could give your name and address and then be sworn. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Gayla Bechtel. My address is 418 Montezuma Avenue in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bechtel. Do you swear under the Ms. Bechtel, do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, John, that's all the presentation that John's going to make, so he's not going to go through all the criteria. So I guess I will. Okay, I would like to screen share. Let's see. Here it is. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I need to get it on the right screen. Okay, guess I'll do it that way. Let me know if you can see it. Noah, can you see my screen?
Yeah, you might want to full screen it.
Okay. Let's forget how to do that. Just do it.
Yeah, that's great.
Is that better?
That's great.
All right. Oh, wait, here's the full screen button. No, that's not it. All right. Okay. Thank you and good evening. And we've come before you for a variance for a project that gained approval from the Historic Design Review Board in October of last year. This project is in a historic neighborhood, and it is based, and this district is based on long, narrow lots and streets. You can see in the image on the right, the physical characteristics are really based on the flow of water going from an uphill ditch down to the river. This area was formerly fields, and in the case of the Placita Rafaela, which this house is on, Mr. Garcia in the 30s built houses for his family members as needed. The suburban subdivision setbacks that we are faced with now assume regular sized lots and streets so that everyone can set back from each other in an orderly fashion. But this neighborhood was built organically, so applying suburban setbacks to this neighborhood is, in my opinion, proving onerous to the residents who want to make their homes safer. And as evidenced by the footprints of the neighborhood, and you can see them here, which is the houses that are on this 1988 map are mostly still here, that they are already set apart from each other, just naturally set back. So Criterion A is, or the Criterion 1, and we feel like we fall under Criterion 1A, which states that unusual physical characteristics exist that distinguish the land or structure from others in the vicinity that are subject to the same relevant provisions. So in our opinion, the unusual characteristics are actually both the land and the structure. And as I stated, the land is unusual in its physical characteristics because of the long lot that's now an alley. And it's a remnant, as you can see on the screen, of former irrigated agricultural land use. And then when Mr. Garcia built the houses right here, he lived at the back. And so he lined up all the houses on one side of the street. And you can see it also on this parcel map, and then also my photograph. And then you can see it again on these photographs. This is 1965, 1966, and 73. And 73 was when the second floor was added. The second floor is the other unusual characteristic that we are faced with. This second floor was added. We don't know exactly why. It's practically inaccessible. There are only 8 risers, and each one of them are over 12 inches. And the treads themselves are under 6. So the stair is not a stair, it's more of a ship's ladder. So the second floor, you can see it here. It has an access onto the roof, and then there it is again. This is off of Google Maps. You'll see a later photograph, or this photograph, which was more recent. You can see the vigas were added. It's not important to you, but so we do feel like that the second floor structure is actually part of the unusual physical characteristic among these single story houses. So we feel like Criterion 1A is satisfied. Criterion 2, special circumstances make it infeasible to develop the property in compliance with the standards. So again, the second floor is dangerous now. And to make it safe, more square footage is required. Here's the stair. It starts in a closet, goes above the toilet, and then ends up here. That's not a code compliant stair. If we are allowed 70 square feet extra, so we can already do this little corner right here with our as of right, but we're asking for this little piece right here, which is the 70 square feet. So redesigning the stair in this current footprint would make not only the second floor practically unusable, it also makes a lot of the ground floor practically unusable. Redesigning the second floor in accordance with this setback provisions is impractical, would overwhelm the house, and would have to be cantilevered and would probably not be approved by H board. And I'll go back to this one. You can see this dotted line is what we could do as a second floor on this piece of property. But here is the house. And so in order to move this over, the stairs actually would not be technically feasible because the stairs would not be over the first floor. So there's actually no way to build a second floor other than where we're building it because of where the stairs have to align. Okay, so that's criterion 2, which we feel like we do satisfy with the special circumstances. Criterion 3 is the intensity of the development shall not exceed that which is allowed on other properties in the vicinity. The intensity of the development, it's still a single family home. It will not be more than that. 70 square feet of what we're asking is imperceptible to most people. You can see this photograph on the left or right hand side of the slide. It'll probably not be noticeable by the time we're done. So we feel like that the intensity of the development, it does not exceed anything that's nearby. So we feel like we have satisfied criterion 3. And again, it's just the 70 square feet that's asked for. And then criterion 4, the variance is the minimum that will make possible reasonable use. And I can talk about this one. This is the minimal addition that's providing safe access to the second floor. Otherwise, the second floor is not accessible by it's not safely accessible. It's not code compliant. We would never be able to get a building permit to use that space. And so that space actually is not legally usable. We're not asking for any more height. We are just simply extending 6 feet in the width. And you can see again on this rendering on the right-hand side, we are just extending it just a little bit to line up with the wall below of the house. So again, 98 square feet is requested. 68 is necessary as a variance. So the total house would be still almost just over 1,100 square feet. Criterion 5, the variance, let me read this to you. The variance is not contrary to the public interest. Public interest includes the ordinances, but is also broader and can go beyond them. Public interest is ultimately based on public safety, health, and welfare. And allowing an extension of the second floor to make the use of it safe and practical is exactly what is intended by the health, safety, and welfare codes. Forcing residents to use unsafe stairs or not to use their space at all because there is no safe stair that was built prior to the city's code enforcement keeps my clients from using their property safely and is in fact contrary, in my opinion, to the public interest. Chapter 14 implies good design that is harmonious with the neighborhood. In our opinion, and also in the Historic Design Review Board's opinion, this does comply with that. And many neighbors have written their approval. However, I missed the deadline from last Friday to send you their letters, but they were all in agreement with my clients. So in summary, let me find my summary. We do feel like we meet the criterion A, which is the unusual physical characteristics, which is the lot itself, the land itself. There are not very many places in the world that the land looks like it does here. And also the second floor. The special circumstances that make it unfeasible. The second floor is dangerous, and there is no room in the existing footprint to put a stair without making the house even less useful. And forcing the second floor to the front of the house would probably not be approved by H board and still wouldn't solve the stair because the stairs have to align with the floor below. The intensity of the development shall not exceed that which is allowed on other properties. Intensity of development will be the same. There is a single family residence now and it will continue to be that. And the minimum variance we're asking for 68 square feet to make this practical and reasonable. The public interest is based on the tenets of public safety, health, and welfare. We feel like that this expansion certainly follows that and makes this house practical and usable. And we do agree with staff that criterion 6 is met because we will have to go in front of H board again to revisit the railing around the second floor. But we wanted to get the approval of the setback variance before we went back in front of H board. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bechtel. Are there any questions from the board for Ms. Bechtel?
Chair, did we want to go before? Do we want to go to members of the public first? Since it's a public hearing, did you want to go to members?
Sure, we can do that first. I was just responding to Ms. Bechtel's comment, but we can do that first, Noah. So being that this is a public meeting, is there anyone present who wishes to speak on behalf of the application? Raise your hand or notify Mr. Burke if you are. Noah, do you see anyone?
Chair, I don't see anyone. If anybody would like to speak on this issue, you can press, if you're calling in, you can press *9. It doesn't look like we have any call-in. And if you'd like to speak on this, you can use the raise hand function and we'll call on you and swear you in. And I don't see anybody raising their hand, Chair.
Okay. So is there anyone who wishes to speak against the application from the public? If you do, please raise your hand.
Chair, I don't see anybody.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So being that there is no public comment, I'm going to close the public portion of our hearing. And then let's see if the board has any questions either for Ms. Bechtel or for staff.
Rachel Winston with a question for staff. Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, please proceed.
For criterion number 1, it mentions characteristics that existed at the time of the adoption of the regulation from which the variance is sought. When was the regulation adopted? And I guess that would be table 14-721.
Chair, go ahead.
Madam Vice Chair, that date that is, we accept that date is 1968, I believe, in terms of the code, the current code being adopted, or the code being adopted in regard to development standards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I think Board Member Painter had his hand up also.
Okay, please go ahead then.
Thank you, Member Painter here. If the code was that would oversee this property was adopted in 68, and this was built, I believe, we heard in, I didn't write down, 73, I believe it was, something like that. Are there records? I'm sorry?
The second floor was 73.
Second floor, right, exactly.
Yeah, the house was built in 32.
Okay. Well, when the second floor was added, is there any staff records or anything indicating that that it was given a variance or something at that point in time, or how was it allowed to be developed if it did not meet the setback criteria at that time?
Board Member Painter, staff could not locate any information regarding the issuance of a building permit for that second story structure.
Okay. I guess the problem I have is that it's obviously existed for what, 50 years? We're going on that now, or 40 something years. Has there been any actions on the part of the city at all concerning that second story development in those intervening years? Or is it just been there and no one's ever said anything about it, and it's just, as long as you don't ask, don't tell, that type of thing? Or
Board Member Painter, again, staff is unaware of any actions that have been taken in regard to the second story structure.
Ms. Bechtel, do you have an answer to that?
I just want to add that the historic heights ordinance was not adopted until 1995 or 96. And so it's entirely possible that the second floor was actually allowed until then. So it was, and the setbacks might have been different because it's RC8. And so the setbacks might have changed over the last many years with the setbacks themselves. So there's no indication that it was built against code or for code, but I just wanted to throw that out, that the code has evolved over the years.
Chair and board members and Board Member Painter, I think, one of the things to look at here is what are the regulations today and what are the asks today, right? Like what was done in the past. Well, we're only required to keep records for 10 years. The historic preservation keeps archives of records. And I do believe that they weren't able to locate any second story approvals from the Historic Design Review Board. And Ms. Bechtel can correct me if I'm wrong with that. I did watch her presentation when she went to H Board. I don't think that information was obtained. I do think that we kind of have to look at things in the perspective of what are the requirements now, what's being asked for now in terms of development. And that's kind of how staff has to evaluate this approval criteria.
No, I understand, and I think that's appropriate. It just makes it a little difficult since it's not new development. And I can understand the code dealing with new development and being enforced very strictly. It's in a city, I think, like Santa Fe, where there's probably been considerable amount of development taking place over the last, who knows, 50 years or so, that probably didn't have building permits issued for them. I know it doesn't give a right to expand that use, but at the same token, it sort of does give a precedent that it's there, it's been allowed to exist. The city has provided services to that property for 50 years, 45 years, whatever it is. It does sort of give a sort of a tacit approval, the fact that it's been allowed to exist and be allowed to be occupied in that period of time. So that's where I was trying to head. I was hoping there was some sort of records that came up, but obviously there's not. So we'll take that in consideration too. I might have others. I don't know if anybody else has other questions or.
Please go ahead.
Board Member Alexander, So Ms. Bechtel, the stairway looks, just off the scale, it looks to be 2 feet wide, something in that ballpark. Is that right?
It might be 2 feet, it might be less.
And that, I feel like the argument about the safe use of the property is certainly one I find somewhat compelling, in that you can't get to the second level. And
right.
You know, looking at where you've laid out so the new stair is a spiral staircase of sorts?
Yes, we are trying to conserve the square footage as much as possible and still be on top of the first floor and within the center area, so we can use the two sides. One is a bedroom and one is a living room. Right, so we're trying to sort of cram all that in there. But, yeah.
Yeah, and the idea that the use of that upstairs space is anything other than storage, and that if you try and get any building permit for anything else in the house, the lack of compliance of the stair is really going to be onerous to the owner to be doing anything else to the property. And obviously, the plan is to spend a lot of money to totally redo the layout. So this would be the time to do it.
This member Painter have another question.
Of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we know at what point this property was subdivided? I assume this gentleman, Mr. Cortez, was it? I forget the name you gave.
I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia.
Garcia.
The plat we have is from 1944.
That's the plan for this property, for this house?
For this property, was 1944, right? But the reason that we know the date for the building was 1932 is because of the Santa Fe directories.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Bechtel, I just clarification, how far into the setback does this improvement go? I can't hear you. You're muted.
You're on mute.
Sorry. The building itself, part of the building, sits on the rear setback, where the living room is, and then the other part is 3 feet from the rear property line. And so if the rear setback is 15, then it's 13 or 12 feet into the setback.
Okay. And the adjacent property, is there a residence right near the lot line?
No, that is the back of the property is the old Tito's property, and that's a driveway, and all of their development is also to the west. So their property sits on the west property line or close to it. So their driveway is to their east, and so I imagine that will always be the case. We've talked to the people that are got that now property for sale, and they're fine with our doing what we're doing. I mean, our three windows are on the property line and or within 3 feet of the property line right now, and they're existing. So I don't think the city can make us get rid of them.
Okay.
But that'll be a building permit issue that we'll solve later.
And excuse me for asking, I didn't recall seeing it in the file. Did you have any letters from your neighbor in support?
We do have some for support, but I missed the deadline for a Friday to give them to you. So we do have, they were submitted for the H-Board hearing. So they were positive letters from our neighbors for the H-Board hearing.
Was it from the direct neighbor who's, I can't recall the last name, as the driveway adjacent to where the...
I don't believe, I think they talked to my clients, talked to him in person. I don't believe that he sent an email.
Okay.
But we could probably get one. I mean, I do feel everyone has been appreciative that we are sort of harmonizing the structure within itself in the neighborhood, because right now it is sort of like a little wart that's sticking up.
Yeah, typically if we were meeting in person, we'd allow you to bring those letters with you and show them to the board at the hearing. But
okay.
Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you. I mean, I'm happy to read them if you'd like. But That's all.
Does anyone from the board want to hear any of the letters in support?
Rachel Winston, I would like to hear the letters in support.
Okay.
How many do you have, Ms. Bechtel?
There were in two different emails, and I'm trying to oh, there it is. Get to my inbox. Okay. They're just a few. They're not very many.
Okay.
I ask a matter of procedure while we're waiting. After we ask Ms. Bechtel questions, will we then go into just voting, or will we discuss the issue among ourselves? I just wonder, is there a point where we should come out and say ahead of time if we're in favor of it and why or not, or do we just vote, or how?
Well, usually discussion is fine with respect to the issues and questions. Typically, someone will make a motion, either for or against, and then we'll have discussion with respect to the motion. But if you have any questions or comments with respect to what's said, certainly you can voice them.
Okay, thank you.
And Chair,
Noah, did you have anything to add on that?
I did want to add something because we have some new members present, and I did want to, for their educational benefit, with the variance, it's not kind of like a passing grade, right? Like where you meet like a majority of the criteria, but not all of it. For a variance to get approved, you have to meet all of the variance criteria. If the board decides to go with staff's recommendation or not against, or doesn't go with staff's recommendation, that's fine. But for the findings of facts and conclusions of law, which are asked to be adopted tonight, we would have to make new findings if you didn't go with what staff had. Or if you wanted to fine tune staff's findings, that's okay as well. That would just have to be included in the motion, or accepted by the person who makes the motion, if a different board member makes that. So I just wanted to point that out because the variance criteria is one of those things where you do have to fully satisfy all of it.
Right. And Dan and Grant, just so you know, for past practice, the board does not always adhere to the staff recommendations. There's no feelings hurt on behalf of the staff when we don't do that. Staff has to go exactly by the book as to how they feel the criteria is and whether they feel it was satisfied. But the board on quite a number of occasions, have felt that some of the circumstances, as the board has already pointed out, may warrant approval. So just for your edification, since you're new to the board.
Thank you.
Of course. And Ms. Bechtel, we cut you off. Do you want to proceed?
Yes, I will. The first one I'll read is from Trenholm Walker, and I believe that he and his wife own a house to the north of, so they're right next door. Laura and Graham, I want to echo, let's see. Yeah, Susan's comments. Oh dear, it's sort of a weird, okay. Looks fantastic. What you're proposing is a marked improvement in every respect. I'm delighted to see that staff is recommending design approval. That is a big plus. If you need us to write a letter in support when you seek your variance, which I unfortunately was dealing with my mother's death over the last month, on the setbacks, please let us know that we can write one in time for the hearing. So I missed that one completely. So I apologize to you and to my clients for that one. Next one. Oh, this is from, I guess, his wife. Dear Graham, how exciting. I absolutely love these proposals and think they would add so much to the house and to the street. The improvement of the second floor is a major one in the sense of proportion and aesthetics. I love the idea of a railing around the second floor of the house for safety and think it would improve the appearance as well. It is a shame to have that rather unsightly and misproportioned second floor that is not really useful for anything. What you've done to it is brilliant in terms of proposing a usable, well-proportioned and attractive expansion. Trenholm and I are totally in favor of all these changes and hope that permission may be granted. I think it would enhance the whole street. Thanks for including us in the conversation. We are eager to hear where this goes, fingers crossed. And then my client just emailed me and told me that he has the other letters. And Graham, perhaps you might unmute somehow and read the others if you have the others.
If he does that, Ms. Bechtel will have to have him sworn in.
Oh, okay. Or Graham, you could email them to me and I'll read them. I'll keep reading. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Actually, I can just comment that the letters I was referring to are the ones that Ms. Bechtel's already read. So it's been dealt with.
All right. Thanks, Graham.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you very much for those. Could you provide copies, send copies of those?
I did
to
this
the staff
afternoon.
so they have those for the record.
Yeah, I did
Thank
this
you,
afternoon.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Rachel Winston, I have a question for staff. Yeah, I was just surprised. Why is an ENN not required for this type of variance request?
Chair, board members, Vice Chair Winston, I would just say that ENNs are not required if the request is associated with a single family residential building permit. It's in the applicability section of the ENN.
So Chair Friedman, I seem to not be able to get my hand noticed, so I'm just going to start talking. This is Member Deering.
Sorry.
And it's okay. This is Zoom, the life on Zoom. I just wanted to clarify that the expansion of the structure on the second floor sits within the footprint of the first floor. Is that correct?
Yes, Secretary.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that. So it's not expanding into the setbacks any further than the first floor already does.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Board Member Alexander, I have a question for staff. In criteria 1A, the idea that distinguishes from others in the vicinity, is there a general sense of what vicinity means there? Is that the streets, the neighborhood?
Board Member Alexander, yes, the neighborhood and certainly immediately adjacent properties.
That have the same zoning?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Comments? Okay, folks, what's the pleasure of the board? Do I have a motion?
Chairman Friedman, this is Member Painter. I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Adjustment find that, let me figure out how to say this exactly, that we approve the request. And I would cite basically the documents provided by the applicant as far as their rationale for feeling that each of the criteria has been met. I read through those very carefully, highlighted them, and I agree with them that I do believe that they have met the criteria. And echoing what Chair or what Member Colleen, I forget your last name, I'm sorry, What she just said, though,
Hearing.
not expanding the footprint, it is being done on top of the existing structure and not encroaching any more into the setback, which are the big issues. So that would be my motion if that's appropriate or stated correctly.
Thank you, Member Painter. Does anyone have a second to that motion?
Second, Rachel Winston, second.
Okay, any comments with respect to the motion?
I have a
Discussion?
question, comments with respect to the motion. This is a two-step approval process or denial. In other words, if we approve, then we have to modify staff's findings of fact and conclusions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In the record. And so is the initial motion one simply to approve or deny, and the second motion a specific amendment of the findings of fact?
Sure. May I speak to that one?
Go
Sure.
ahead. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that our practice usually is that if the board is going with staff's recommendation, we'll typically assume that you agree with staff with regard to the criteria. If you're not going with staff's recommendation, it is appropriate to state the reasons for why you have, found a certain way with regard to the various criteria, as Member Painter did. My recommendation on something this complicated is probably that you might want to direct staff to propose a draft that's consistent with the board's decision rather than trying to write them tonight. I think is usually what we've done in the past with something this, it's a little more than a real simple tweak. So I would recommend bringing back new findings to approve at the next meeting. Even if we have to schedule a special meeting just to approve findings, which occasionally this board has done.
Member Painter, are you okay with your motion being set that way?
I am. I don't need to restate it. What our assistant city attorney just said was fine.
Okay, we just want to have that on the record.
Okay.
And Vice Chair Winston, do you second that motion?
I second that.
Okay, great. Any other comments from the board? Thank you, everyone. Let's please do a roll call.
Vice Chair Winston,
Yes, approve.
Member Reynolds,
Yes.
Member Deering,
Approve.
Member Moss,
Member Moss, you have to you're muted.
Member Maz, in case 2020-2894, I approve.
thank you. Member Alexander,
Approved.
Member Alexander,
Approved.
He said he approved.
thank you. Thank you. Member Painter,
I approve too.
Chair Friedman,
I also approve of the motion.
thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Bechtel, for your presentation.
Thank you all.
And congratulations to you and your clients.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
You folks don't need to stick around. All right, great. Can I make a suggestion? Member Deering.
I would like to move that we direct staff to rewrite the findings of fact and conclusions of law for case 2020-2894 to reflect our decision.
Member Maz, second.
Okay. Do we discussion?
I don't think it actually needs a motion for that. I think.
Oh, I apologize. I
Yeah.
withdraw my motion.
I think it's helpful to have it on the record, actually, because the way we've set up the staff report is recommending like a separate motion to approve the findings. And since we're not doing it, doesn't hurt. for a super clean record.
Okay. I do not withdraw my motion.
I think it's
Okay,
good practice to have it.
Based upon the advice of our sage counsel, let's do a roll call for that motion.
Okay, Vice Chair Winston,
Approve.
Member Reynolds,
Approve.
Member Deering,
Approve.
Member Moss,
Approve.
Member Alexander,
Approve.
Member Painter,
Approve.
Chair Friedman.
I approve also.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Could I suggest that we have a 5-minute break before the next case? Is that okay, folks? We'll come back. Let's say we come back at 7:20 p.m. Please don't disconnect, but let's just, we'll adjourn until 7:20. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Please remember to mute your microphones and turn your video feeds.
He said, listen to this one. Look just like the guys, look just like the picture you're showing.
Okay, is everyone back? Waiting on Member Moss. I think I see Doug.
Chair, it does look like everybody is back and present and microphones and videos are working correctly, I hope.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks very much. Let's proceed with the next case, case number 2020-2895, 313-317 Camino O'Leary, regarding a special use permit. Donna Wynette is our case manager. Donna, are you going to present the case?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chair and fellow board members. If I could do a shared screen, Noah, see if I can get this right this time. Let's see. 313, this case is, can you see it on your screen?
No, but I'll go ahead and share the screen for you, Donna, and you can just take it from where you can share your report, right?
Yes, I have the first page up on the screen.
Yeah, it's up now. I uploaded it for you, so you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So, oh, I see. So there you go. 313 Camino O'Leary is the location of this request for a special use permit. The applicants, Andrea Abedi and Hillary Kilpatrick, are the agents for Hot Pie LLC, who is the owner, and they're requesting approval of a special use permit for a commissary kitchen at 313 Camino O'Leary. Property is zone C1, which is the office and related commercial district, and it's approximately 1.42 acres in size. So the thing that I wanted to point out about the site is that essentially it's surrounded by residential property, except for the magnet school to the east. And if you could, let's see, boy, it's kind of hard to do this, but thanks, Noah. So basically, there's a few things in here that really highlight what the applicant wants to do. First of all, the context, it is in a really a mixed area, mixed use area, primarily residential, but a mix of things. And the magnet school here, the athletic field, as you can see to the east there, it's a variety of things there in this area. This is Agua Fria and Camino O'Leary, and this is the building, of course, 313. There is a parking lot here associated with this business. This small little casita is not, but it is on the same site there. So the applicant is requesting something that was previously not permitted in the ordinance. The commissary kitchen was an ordinance that was approved, I think it was September 30th of last year. And some of that information is in the report with the definition of that. And the one thing that I wanted to point about the definition in the report is that basically it's a commercial kitchen. It's set up for a variety of things, but essentially it performs a number of functions. But the thing I wanted to point out about the definition is that it's not open to the public. So this building had been previously used as it was Pinon Hills. It was a psychiatric hospital back in 1984 up to 2000, which then it became Desert Academy. And there's a special use permit for that. And, you know, these kind of things are required when you're in a residential district, special use permits. So the Desert Academy then took the building in year 2000. And it was then ultimately rezoned to C1 zoning district. And I'm familiar with that because I worked on that case in 2014. So there was a number of things that the applicant had in mind for that building. It was evaluated for a number of things, parking and traffic. So some of those things had already been vetted, I guess, really more intensely for an office use, because that's a higher parking requirement than what the applicant is going to be doing. So in one of your materials that the applicant has submitted, at the very, very back of the packet shows a really good legible site plan and a floor plan. I couldn't really make it such in the text of the report, but that's way down at the very end. If you want to go all the way to the very end, like drag that thing all the way down to the bottom of the report. So, the site is well set up for this. It's now that it's permitted in the C1 zoning district. And actually, when you look at the permitted uses table, it's the only zoning district that Commissary Kitchens really called out as permitted use. So it's well suited for this building and the neighborhood. The people that attended the early neighbor notification were there to really just be very supportive of the request. So, they had some questions, but very, very supportive, and looking forward to it getting established and being a really a good asset to the city and to the neighborhood. So, yeah, if you want to drag that all the way down to the bottom, Noah, to the very, very end of the report is a good site plan and floor plan. And I know the applicant will want to give a really great, thorough presentation, so I won't go into a lot of that, but yeah, if you go all the way down to the very bottom. The basics of the report too are the criteria. The first one I believe is, is a board of adjustment, the appropriate board? Yes, it is. It's got the authority to review special use permits. So that is the site plan with all the different call out labeling that you can see there in your packet. And you can see the building, it wraps around this inner courtyard area. And then this is a 2-story portion of the building, but basically mostly the applicant will be using this portion of the building over here. And there's other nonprofit groups in here. It's not at 100% capacity of usage for this building, but and then I got a nice tour of the building. It was, of course, like a lot of places, didn't seem full because of the pandemic kind of thing, but essentially got a good feel for the use of the building. And then the site too, I was already familiar with. So, it's a one-way entrance in and all the way around that loops around to the back. Loading area here. This is extra parking here. I believe there's a total of 29 parking spaces. Again, this is not part of their business, but this is another nonprofit there that's taking that casita there, or has been established in that casita. And if Noah, you could just bring that down to the very last thing there. That again, I'm not going to go into much explanation on this, but what the shaded parts here is what the portion of the building that the applicant is going to be using. So again, this was rezoned to the C1's officer-related commercial district back in 2014, and it was really evaluated at really a higher parking standard. So it's really hard to come up with a parking standard for this type of use. It's not retail, it's not restaurant, it's not really industrial, although it probably falls kind of within that category. So it's the way the code reads, it's really to be determined by the staff. So I think our position is that they do have sufficient parking. The traffic engineer evaluated this back in 2014. We haven't had that kind of input from the traffic engineer, but we felt that the way things operated and function on the site for parking and traffic flow was not an issue at all. So I think that pretty well covers my presentation. We felt like the criteria was met. It's compatible with the surrounding area and buildings in the surrounding area. So we are recommending approval, and I'll conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant present?
Yes, we're right here.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Could you both be kind enough, one at a time, state your name and address, and then be sworn in by the stenographer?
Yes. My name is Hillary Kilpatrick, 2323 Calle Halcon, also Solilomis.
Thank you.
Andrea Abetti, 1533 La Cienegita.
Thank you. Melissa, can we please swear in these ladies?
Yes. Do you both swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimonies you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Miss Abeda and
Thank
Miss
you.
Ms. Abeta and Ms. Kirkpatrick, are you the only ones going to be speaking on behalf of your application?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed, ladies.
Okay, let me see. We're going to also share our screen. We have just a very quick PowerPoint presentation for you.
Thank you.
So, okay. So we're going to talk about commissary and community kitchens and just give you a little information about our project.
Okay, so a certified kitchen is where people can prepare food products for distribution to the public. Commercial kitchens are designed for food production and food safety.
And the need. Santa Fe is a city with food entrepreneurs who lack a proper facility, a commissary or commercial kitchen where they can prepare food for resale. The closest viable options are in Taos, the Taos Economic Development Center, and Albuquerque, the Mixing Bowl. So this would create a resource for those who wish to scale, expand, and properly start food businesses in accordance with the health department regulations.
Examples of community benefits: it will create jobs within the community. It will encourage the supply chain to stay local, as well as encourage local innovation and entrepreneurship in Santa Fe's food community. It will also create a food community where businesses can collaborate and exchange ideas and advice, and it serves as a link between local farmers and local food entrepreneurs.
So some samples of people who might use the kitchen, like Donna said, it's not open just to the public, but it's open to clients that want to rent the space. So this could be entrepreneurs or businesses that are creating and selling packaged food products. It could be private chefs who are cooking for events or regular customers. It can be caterers cooking for events, food truck owners so that they have a sanitary place for food prep and food storage, and also farmers to distribute their products in a centralized location.
So again, the special use permit, it's a site is zoned C1, and the code includes allowing commissary kitchens, but requires a special use permit for this use. And the special use permit will not affect zoning requirements to surrounding areas and is consistent with neighborhood land use.
So this, Donna kind of already showed you, but this is the site, just in case anyone doesn't know where it is. And so this is Agua Fria, this is the magnet school. And if you go all the way down this road, you get to Alameda.
And then this is just an example to show that the area is zoned for mixed use.
And this is the site plan, which again, Donna already showed you. So this area will be a lot of additional parking, and we're going to encourage a one-way traffic flow. So everyone will come down from Agua Fria down the street this way, enter the building this way, go around past the loading dock, all the way around, exit, and then exit down towards Alameda so that it won't have a negative impact on traffic flow in the neighborhood.
ENN guidelines completed. So the effect on appearance of the neighborhood, we're using the existing structure. It's not a historic site. There's a mixed use area. Payne's Nursery is right across the street. Parking, we actually have 40 spaces and 12 bike racks, ADA compliant on the property, and it will not affect the neighbors. And like Hillary said, the traffic is a one-way pattern. And again, we're limited to clientele who are renting the kitchen. It's not open to the public. And the economic impact, it will create jobs which support economic growth and stability for the city.
And we believe, and we've heard from our neighbors, that this will be an asset to the neighborhood. It promotes continued mixed use in the area. Mixed use is proven to enhance the vitality and perceived security of an area by creating sort of an informal neighborhood watch. Also, it'll add beauty through small aesthetic changes with the landscaping that we're going to do to the building. And some big values in our business plan are respect and inclusivity, and this will help promote those values for the neighborhood.
So thank you for your time and your support. I'm Andrea, and
I'm Hillary.
And there's our information if you need to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report.
Let's see, I need to stop sharing. Did I stop
So-
sharing?
There you go. So
So we're open for questions.
before we move forward with questions of the applicant, being that this is a public hearing, I wanted to see if there's any members of the public who are wish to speak either in favor or against the application.
Chair, it looks like we have one member, which is labeled as Squash Blossom Local Food. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk, and you'll be sworn in first.
And we also have another person I see, Chris Clavio.
Okay.
So let's go forward with Squash Blossom Local Food. There's four, it looks like there's 4 people on the attendance list. Go ahead.
Melissa, did you want to swear in Squash Blossom?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Nina Yozelstein, the director of Squash Blossom. Sorry, I didn't put my name. And my address is Pon de Aten in Nambe, New Mexico.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, good evening, Chair and board members. Speak in favor of the Commissary Kitchen. I am planning to, and am currently a tenant at the building, and I'm planning to stay a tenant as it becomes a commercial kitchen. With my business, Squash Blossom Local Food, we support farmers throughout New Mexico. We work with about 30 different farms within the area, and that's not limited. We're always adding new farms, and we distribute their food to restaurants and through a local food subscription service to the community. So we're able to bring healthy food to Santa Feans and strengthen our local economy. And while we're a small local business that is looking forward to being a tenant in the building, we also support other local businesses such as the farms and the restaurants that we work with. And we look forward to giving them opportunities to process their own chili and salsas and value-added products at the Commissary Kitchen. We also look forward to being a source for other chefs that use the kitchen for local ingredients. And we're just really excited about this project and think it brings a lot to Santa Fe and to this neighborhood. And I'm available for questions that people might have, but we're big fans.
Thank you very much.
Here it looks like the next person to speak is Chris. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself, and you'll be sworn in by Melissa.
Hi, good evening. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Chris Clavio. My address is 534 Oñate Place, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87501.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Clavio.
I would like to speak in favor of this commercial kitchen. As a serial entrepreneur and somebody who started a bakery when I was 19 at the Mixing Bowl Commercial Kitchen in Albuquerque, I think this project is an invaluable resource to the community and local food entrepreneurs. I wouldn't have been able to start my business, without that resource in Albuquerque. And I think it's really important for that resource to be available to local food entrepreneurs here in Santa Fe.
Thank you very much.
Chair, looks like a gentleman by the name of Gabe is the next person to speak. Gabe, go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and you'll be sworn in.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gabe Gomez. I live at 2100 Calle de la Vuelta in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you all, Chair and local board, for taking the time. I'll be brief. I work for a very prominent nonprofit here in town, and where we promote global and local cultures all over the nation and well beyond. And I am in well of support of this of this project and this business. I think it would add a tremendous amount to I think not only the local economy, but also the local food culture, which is often not as prominent as the arts and other things here in town. But nevertheless, I think this would be a real hub for local entrepreneurs, local chefs, local creators, to be able to not only really be able to build up a kind of food identity for town, but also provide jobs and all kinds of other benefits to Santa Fe, which I think are needed. And I think it's just a really wonderful idea, and I wholeheartedly support this.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else?
Sure. If anybody else would like to speak, you can use the raise hand function. We can call on you, and otherwise it doesn't look like anybody else has their hand raised.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for your comments. If there aren't any more comments from the public, I'm going to close the public portion of this hearing, the public comment portion of this hearing. And do I have questions from the board for either staff or the applicants? No questions?
This is Member Painter. I have a couple questions.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I guess these will be, for the applicant in this case. First one, I just wanted to know, are there going to be deliveries like via a semi trucks or anything that would occur in the evenings or at night, since it looks like you're open pretty much all night long, except for 3 hours?
Well, we're going to comply with the Santa Fe noise ordinance, and no deliveries would be, anything we comply with would fit with the same things that Payne's Nursery complies with. So we would make sure that there's no deliveries outside of the noise ordinance. And so they would be within regular business hours.
Okay, that's good. I've dealt with other projects where like grocery stores that have semi trucks that come with refrigerated truck trailers, and they will sit out there for hours. And if it's next to a residential area, it can get to be a real problem, but it sounds like you've already addressed that. So that's good. How many users can be in your area at one time?
Well, I think pre-COVID, we were about 8 at one time, but now COVID times, I think maybe 2. We're going to start slow. We have to.
Yeah. That 8 would be the maximum you would expect to have in there.
Yes.
They have 2 or 3 people with them each user, or is it a single person for each user, do you think? Or
one more time, I didn't catch that.
How many? You said 8
Single
users.
person.
1 person for each user, you're thinking?
Yes.
8 people maximum.
I'm sorry?
8 people maximum at one time in the kitchen.
Okay, thank you. I think it's stated in the pack, and I believe one of you mentioned in your presentation that this would be a place for farmers to distribute their food.
Yes.
What do you mean by that exactly? I mean, are you looking at like a farmer's market type situation, or?
No, I think what we meant is that the farmers will be able to clean their greens per se, package them up, store them, Well, no farmer's market.
But it's already stated there's not going to be a public in there, so nobody's going to be coming in there to pick up stuff from farmers or anything like that.
No.
Okay. The parking area that you show on the, I guess it's kind of the southeast side of the property, is that owned by this same operation? It looks like it's on a separate lot. I couldn't tell for sure, but.
Yes, it is a separate lot, but it's owned by the same person.
Okay.
There's
so
3 conjoining lots that are owned
Okay.
by the same person.
Okay. Obviously, the concern there is that someday they don't decide they want to sell that off, but it would not be allowed to be sold off, obviously.
Right.
Okay. I think the last thing, well, I had 2 other things. I'll wrap it up here. One is you've got a loading area that you show, or unloading area, I guess is really what it is. And it's against the outside fence as opposed to next to the building. And when I look at the circulation around the building, you sort of create sort of a little slalom course through there where basically you come around the building and you've got the loading on one side where there could be some trucks in there doing stuff. And then right kind of catty corner to that, right next to it, well, across from it, adjacent to the building, you got 3 parking spaces. So you could have people parked in those spaces. At the same time, you got people parked in the loading zone. And it looks like, I'm sure that I know the transportation group has looked at it and I guess they didn't have a problem with it. But it just seems like it would make more sense next to the building. I mean, you got people unloading stuff. Wouldn't it be more sense just to take it right into the building, right next to the building?
The doors to the kitchen are in the back where we have the loading area.
Oh, they are.
So
Okay.
if you saw like the green shaded space, that's our gray shaded space in the drawing that Donna pointed out. Only those gray shaded rooms are ours. And so the rooms in the back, that's where people will be unloading and loading because that's where the refrigerators are. That's where the entrance to the kitchen is. That's where the entrance to the dry storage and locker rooms will be.
Okay. Well, I'll assume that the transportation group looked at it real closely and figures that trucks and everything can get through there if all those spaces are occupied. I think that was all the only other thing I had, and it's probably a non-issue. Well, let me preface this by asking, are there any other food processing or users in this building at all at the moment?
No.
Well, the reason I ask is that the dumpsters located in the very kind of extreme northeast, I guess, whatever corner, the corner of the property, it's seemingly closest to the residential properties. It's still, you got that new parking lot, or that parking lot area that separates them. But I know with like restaurants and all that, sometimes those dumpsters can get to be a little smelly. And typically, if you had a choice to put it somewhere other than closest to the residential area, it would make more sense. You don't have a lot of space, it looks like, to move the dumpster around. But I didn't know if that was, anybody had brought that up, or if you looked at that, if that's a concern. I assume there's going to be food, processed food, whatever, thrown in that dumpster, and more than likely will sit there for a few days. In the summertime, it can get to be a real smelly situation, I would think. But have you looked at that, or is it?
Yeah, we have. During the ENN application packet, we made a whole plan for trash. And so for the organic waste, we're going to be doing composting, working with Reunity Farms, and they have ways to cover the smell. And they've also offered to do multiple times per week pickup, especially in the summer when it's hot.
Right.
And then we'll have regular trash pickup with the city, and we'll make sure that all the dumpsters are lidded to reduce any sort of smells. And then we'll also have recycling.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you thought of everything. Sounds great.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions from the board of staff for the applicants? I just had some quick questions. I was wondering, the maximum of 8 people being in the kitchen at one time, is that based upon code, or is that something that you're just self-imposing?
Well, it's based upon the amount of equipment that we'll have in the kitchen, the amount of ovens and space usage. So that's the amount of people we can fit that can comfortably cook at one time in that space.
Okay,
And-
great.
Yeah. And there are separate areas. So there's there's going to be a hot kitchen, and then people will be in dry storage. So it's spread out.
Okay. And I know you're not planning any direct sales to consumers from the building, but are you foreseeing a point where, say, someone who's baking goods wants to wholesale ship those to like supermarkets or other retail operations?
Yes, we will partner down the line with Fresh Foods New Mexico, which is they are creating the packaging plant to get food from A to B.
Okay,
So that
great.
it's certified and
Yeah.
sanitized.
Mhm.
Gotcha. And I saw you're going to be open potentially from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. I assume that's a lot of the folks who are going to be baking.
Yeah.
Yes.
They
Yes,
keep those
they hold
hours.
special hours.
Yes. All right.
That's how
great.
you get your fresh croissant in the morning.
And exactly. I have no complaint about that. Okay, thank you very much, ladies,
Thank
for
you.
answering my
Thank you.
questions. Any other questions from the board? Okay, well then, what's the pleasure of the board?
Rachel Winston, Mr. Chair, regarding case number 2020-2895, a request by Hot Pie LLC for a special use permit for a commissary kitchen at 313317 Camino Alegre. I move to approve the variance request, subject to technical corrections recommended by staff.
Very good.
Member
What-
Deering, I second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Deering. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Chair Winston,
Approve.
Member Reynolds,
Approve.
Member Deering,
Approve.
Member Moss,
Approve.
Member Alexander,
Approved.
Member Painter,
Approved.
Chair Friedman.
I approve. The motion carries.
Thank you. The motion has been, yes, thank you.
Sorry. All right, congratulations. Good luck with everything.
Mr. Chair, I think we have a second motion we need to do.
Oh, okay, let's do a
And I'd
second
like to
motion.
make that motion, Rachel Winston.
Go ahead.
Regarding case number 2020-2895, a request by Hot Pie LLC for a special use permit for commissary kitchen at 313317 Camino Alegre. I move to approve and to incorporate the findings of fact and conclusions of law as shown in Exhibit A2.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Member Moss, second.
Thank you. Can we, any discussion? Let's please have a roll call.
Vice Chair Winston,
Approve.
Member Reynolds,
Approve.
Member Deering,
Approve.
Member Moss,
Approve.
Member Alexander,
Approved.
Member Painter,
Approved.
Chair Friedman.
I approve.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Now let me congratulate you ladies on your approval and good luck with your endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being present this evening. Thank you for your very informational presentation. Did a nice job. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, and then you don't have to hang out with us. We're gonna do some other staff stuff. You're welcome to if you want. Oh, they're gone. Okay, so could we, staff communications?
Thank you, Chair and board members. This is a good first strike at a elections. I think that was a good thing that hopefully we won't have to do again in a year from now, but we may. It was a good test run on that. And welcome to the new board members. Thank you guys for bearing with me, and hopefully the materials I sent to you are helpful, and it does appear that we've got almost everything working. And we did cancel the February meeting for this board. I think you should all receive that. But we may just have to have a special meeting to adopt the findings of facts and conclusions of law for the first case that you heard tonight. We're going to redraft it with board members Painter's suggestion that we use the applicant's responses to draft the findings of facts and conclusions of law as the board voted to agree with them. So we will do that. Also, I did want to acknowledge that Daniel Werwath, former board member, was not reappointed to this board. Did want to thank him. That was a decision by the mayor, and wanted to thank him for his service. I did see some emails that were going around this weekend, and I think he did a great job as a board member and will be missed very much, but very excited for also the future too of the new board members. So with that, I also will let you guys know that there is a new fee schedule that was adopted that went into effect January 1st. It affects everything that land use does. Some of the fees doubled, if not tripled. We weren't recuperating costs of doing some of the stuff that we weren't charging for, such as zoning verification letters used to be free. Now they're $75. And there's a few other different application fees that have gone up. I just wanted to let you know that that is available on our city's website, on the building permits website, but also the homepage of the land use department. So you can see those fees if you're interested in them.
Is that permitting fees as well?
Yep.
Permitting fees have gone up also?
Yeah, building permit fees, everything, every single fee that we had before pretty much increased. Not everything, but most of across all the divisions too.
I'm glad I got my permits in.
Is the new motto of the building department, pay us more and we'll get it done faster?
Yeah, well, that's the hope. And maybe after COVID will be really fast now that we can do it during COVID. And that's all I have. So thank you very much.
I have a quick question, Rachel Winston. The reason I keep interrupting everybody and just chiming in, I don't know where the raising the hand feature is. I have not been able to find it on my.
It depends. Like for me, I use an iPad. It's all the way to the top, and then it's a separate line that says raise hand. But you can just, if you can't find, you can just raise your hand physically. We'll see it.
Okay.
Rachel, if you hit the participants button, it opens up a list on the right-hand side of your screen. And then at the bottom of that list, it'll have raise hand, mute me, unmute.
Thank you.
Right. It's different for like an iPad. It's a little different, but that's great. Okay. Any matters from the board?
Board member Painter, thank you for your questions this evening. They were very good, and I really appreciated the knowledge you bring. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here, and look forward to the coming years, and we'll see all the interesting things that are happening in Santa Fe. So they say it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. But thank you.
Great. I have the same comment. Dan and Grant, thank you very much for your participation tonight and for your excellent questions. We appreciate them.
I do apologize for not remembering everybody's name from the first meeting. So next time I'll have everybody's names down.
I've been on this committee for about 6 years now, and I still don't know everybody's name.
There'll be a quiz.
That might be my timeline too, I'll tell you.
And I'll circulate the membership list so that you know when your appointments expire, and I'll have the chair and vice chair and secretaries labeled and the contact numbers as well, with emails in case you want to contact fellow board members, but not do a rolling quorum.
Noah, is it a staggered appointment at all, or are we so that people aren't, we don't change over the entire board in 1 year kind of a thing?
Yes, Chair and Member Deering, that is correct. Sally worked diligently to make sure that we allocated the overlapping terms, and that some people got 1 year and some people got 2 years. And we had to do the same thing with Planning Commission because they just hadn't been reappointed in so many years that it kind of got a little messy.
This group actually has 3 of you have 3-year terms, 2 have 2-year terms, and 2 have 1-year terms.
And we just get to you said you're going to tell us.
Yeah, they are assigned.
Can I know what my term is?
We'll send it out on the list Noah's talking about because I don't have them memorized. I know we gave our new members the 3 years for sure, so that you have an opportunity to really hang out for a while. And then we kind of looked at whoever had their terms expired the longest. I think we gave shorter terms. And then we gave broken ties to those of you serving as officers. So we actually had a real method to the madness in recommending the terms to the mayor, but we did keep a staggered structure. And as you know, often these kind of turn over at the end of the term without action. So that can also happen, but.
Great, thank you. Noah, is Patricia Hawkins not on the board any longer?
Chair, I don't know if you were here. If you were
I wasn't last week.
Okay, so at last meeting, I think she had announced that she was resigning from the board, which she let me know ahead of time when I was asking about who wants to keep being on the board. So she did announce and said farewell to everybody at our last meeting. So I'm sorry you missed that.
No, thank you. Well, I also want to reiterate my thanks to Daniel Werworth and to Patricia for their fine service to the Board of Adjustment, and wish them well, for the record. Okay, if there aren't any other matters before the board.
Chair, I think Vice Chair Winston has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
Sorry, I was just practicing.
I thought you was doing the thumbs up. I didn't, sorry.
Success.
You were noticed.
This, I have to say, the last few meetings, we've had some interesting applicants. Those of you who've been on the board for a while remember the 1.5 years where all we did was approve church things. Various church, yes.
I was in on the tail end of that.
And having the hydroponics place, and then this is really exciting stuff happening now. It's very fun to sit on these presentations.
They are a lot better than when we had to hear the cell tower cases. Colleen, were you on the board for that?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And we had like 100 people show up. All of them.
And I was on the Government Affairs Committee for the Realtors Association when they were doing all of that at the city council level. So it was my second go round with the same topic.
Yeah, those were long hearings. And things that we had no authority to basically rule upon.
And usually we were relegated to the place down the street instead of in quarters.
Yeah, that's right. I won't say those were the good old days because they were.
No, thank you.
Well, it's great to see all your faces again.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to everyone.
Likewise, Happy New Year.
All right, go get your shots.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
I don't qualify yet.
Me neither. Okay, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Night.
No.